Yo, right, so welcome to a new series that we're gonna call This Deck is Garbage, Changed My Mind. So the reason why I want to make this series was because I feel like there's a lot of decks that people kind of hype up or spread a lot of misinformation about, and it really kind of bugs me, of which the deck today is the Grey Merchant Mono Black deck, and this kind of spurred me to make this series. In addition to that, this is also a good way that we can start showcasing decks that are, like, I guess, less competitive, but just kind of a bit more fun. And there's also another element to this series where we want to actually be proven wrong with these decks, actually. So what we're going to do is we're going to suggest that if you have, like, ways of, fixing the decks, or you've got your own deck lists for the decks that we're showing, that you go, no, you're actually wrong, try out this. If we actually come to the conclusion that the deck turns out that it is good and we try out your list, then we'll do a part 2 follow-up to a lot of these episodes. That way we can actually kind of, solve these decks, and actually, turns out that, you have changed our mind. But for a lot of these decks, we're making the case that these decks are bad.
I think that Mono Black could be really good, but I have no idea how, for life me, how. So exactly. I would really like someone to help me with this, frankly.
So yeah, just remember to make sure you comment on the video and give any of your suggestions or whatever, and then that way, one, it helps us as a channel, but two, it also allows us to make the follow-ups for these videos. So the first part of this video is us going over the various builds and the various card choices that these decks play. And the second half of this video is us, we're going to commentate over some footage that we have of this to kind of, footage is going to highlight our points. That way, we can actually back up what it is that we're saying. Personally, I think this is quite important because, a lot of people make a lot of claims about their decks being, like, the best thing to grind to Mythic, and all you see is the footage of them winning games. Yeah, sure, they might, every deck can go off eventually, and I'm assuming that the other people that are posting about this deck specifically are going to have a lot of footage of them just blowing their opponent out, but what they're not showing you is where this deck actually lacks a huge amount. And why is it we're doing this? Well, people put out a good word about a lot of decks, and you could, use wild cards or, heaven forbid, spend money on this deck just to eventually realise that the deck isn't actually all that good. And that's where we come in, and that is why we are playing these bad decks on your behalf. And the good thing is like I said, it lets us showcase off kind of a bit more fun decks, a bit more wacky stuff, and then perhaps even make these fun wacky decks into something that's maybe slightly viable with your guys' help. But again, the point of this whole series is that we want to, like, set the record straight with a lot of these decks. We want to, like, debunk a lot of the hysteria and myths that are going about with certain decks, and that is why today, like I said, we're getting on with Grey Merchant Mono Black. Okay, so there seems to be, like, two different versions of this deck. One is, like, the one that we've got here, which uses, like, I don't even know what you would class this version of the deck as, but there's this kind of version of the deck, and there's another version of the deck that uses the cats like Cauldron Familiars and the Witch's Oven. So we've tried out both versions of these decks, and frankly, we think they fucking suck. And the worst part about it is Mono Black, we really want it to be good, but it just doesn't seem to ever quite get there. So when it comes to the Grey Merchant Mono Black deck we have, really the problem that this deck and all the other variants have is that you commit so many things to board without really doing a whole lot. All you're trying to do is just get your devotion up. Now, fair enough, you do have good cards like Yarok's Fernlurker and Ayara, but at the same time, they're just not doing as much as other decks can do when really what you're trying to get to is Grey Merchant. And the deck just then doesn't do fucking anything unless you see Grey Merchant along with Nightmare Shepherd, because chances are you can't just dome them for immediate game using this. Now, don't get me wrong, you do have to, chip them down throughout the game. That is part of the strategy.
Even the single strategy.
That's part of the strategy.
Grey Merchant just hitting and, I don't know, stealing 7 health or something like that. It doesn't always win you the game, but it can buy you time to get more.
But is buying time really enough? Especially with, fast
like
aggro
nice
decks,
upside. But it doesn't bring this deck out of mediocrity.
So another reason why we're kind of not confident on the deck is that, again, because you're committing so much to board, any amount of interruption actually becomes a gigantic setback. So if they hit your Ayara, you're down 3 devotion for Grey Merchant.
Yeah, it's pretty grim.
Like, any amount of interruption just really sucks. Now, yeah, the deck can do cool stuff, like Nightmare Shepherd does combo with Fernlurker, or I guess in some sense like Midnight Reaper and things like that. But then again, you need a sack outlet with Ayara, but what that means that you have to have Nightmare Shepherd and Ayara and one of these other cards for a combo that just doesn't win you the game. All it does is just buy you a bit of time. And yeah, the combo with Nightmare Shepherd and Grey Merchant is cool, but that requires you to have at least a 3-card combo and on perfect curve with 5 mana.
Yeah, it's unlikely.
For a combo that isn't guaranteed to win you the game.
Yeah, ideally your game goes like turn 3 Ayara, turn 4 Nightmare Shepherd, turn 5 Grey Merchant, and even if that does happen, like I'm not going to even say it's going to happen often, even if that does happen, if your opponent uses a removal at any time between turn 3 and turn 5, then, well, I guess your combo doesn't work.
I feel like the control matchup is literally just unwinnable for this game. Even with Agonizing Remorse, if they have any negate, cool, this now your win con just doesn't even happen. If they have anything that can hit it out of your hand, what can you do? You just lose automatically. The deck just doesn't even really gain any card advantage either, aside from Yarok.
The one thing it even slightly performs against is aggro.
Yeah.
It's got lots of bodies that can do lots of blocking, and it's got a big heal guys that's top end. Yeah, it beats aggro, but that's about it.
So this is the other deck list for the Mono Black, and personally I kind of like this one a bit more, but Sam liked the other one. We done the other deck list, but even this still has its issues. However, I do think that having Witch's Oven means that you can get the Nightmare Shepherd Grey Merchant combo off a little bit better. So, and yeah, having Ayara and Cat Oven does give you a little bit more, what would you say, like survivability, I guess. This version of the deck also is using Bolus Citadel at the top end.
Great fun.
Now,
great fun.
Yeah, it's cute. It really is cute. But at the same time, any amount of interruption, and this ends up just becoming kind of pointless.
Hit 2 lands on the top. Oh well, guess Bolus Citadel didn't do anything this turn.
Now, don't get me wrong, Bolus Citadel is an unbelievably good card, but the deck just doesn't do enough to, make up for your one-off bomb,
Yeah, this isn't like War of the Spark, Golgari Rock. This is like totally different. It
Certainly not.
Can't keep chaining shit off the top using Discovery or things like that. It's just playing the cards as you see them. Sure, you'll get health off Grey Merchant, but you got nothing to fill your draws, really. Just the odd draw card.
Now, I will admit, though, that the card can indeed just immediately win you the game. Like, don't think that we're taking away from that. However, I don't want to play a deck that functions around a 1 of 6 drop artifact. Like, that's
then relies on top decks.
Yeah, exactly. Too much of this deck relies on your opponent doing too little against you. And by playing things like Nightmare Shepherd, and then like having to play like other kind of variations like Ayara and the cats, you end up missing out on a lot of the good things that just mono black aggro does better than other like kind of aggro-y kind of decks.
Yep.
So you miss out on a lot of the things that makes mono black good in the attempt to just blow your opponent out with Grey Merchant. And I don't think it's worth it, personally. Okay, so let's dive into the footage that we have, that way we can actually show you what it is that we're talking about. So before we get into the rest of the video, I just want to remind you guys, if you like this video, then please like, comment and subscribe, because it really does help us out. And if you want to go even further, you can follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and also Twitch, where you get to see videos like this happen live. So here we are, we're into the first game, and it's sped up for just ease of, being able to show these things along, because the first few turns are, you can see what's happening. You don't really need us to, be going at like one for one speed.
We've talked enough about the cards. Here's just what they're doing.
Totally. So, we're playing against, it seems like it's mono Black Knights. It might be playing, Rakdos Knights, but we didn't really see a red when we're playing against this guy. But we can see here that we won this game because of this guy's fault, really. He, like, super overcommits and then just gives us the chance to win this game. But against normal, like, Rakdos Knights, if it was actually drawn particularly well, our hand is terrible. Most of the time, we could probably have been easily blown out by this deck.
This bit's good. This bit's good. I like this a lot.
What?
Where he swings the Regisaur into the Fern Lurker, which then dies, and then the Nightmare Shepherd brings it back and makes him discard the last card in his hand. It's feels bad for him, man.
Totally.
He brought this upon himself.
Now, the thing is, though, is that I think that Nightmare Shepherd definitely has a cool, like, ETB kind of abuse deck, but currently it's not going that great.
Yep. This guy isn't getting his ass kicked because Grey Merchant's OP. He's getting his ass kicked just because we're playing cards.
Totally. So, so what was this again? Okay, so this one we're up against like an Orzhov deck. We actually lose this game.
Spoiler alert. Yeah, so we've got like a bit of hand destruction in hand and like piss all else, but hey, Ghost Rider.
So clearly this guy, like once this guy hits out with Doom Foretold, like it is over for this deck, because the whole point is that this deck's whole shtick is relying on your devotion and things that are stuck on the field. But when you have a deck like this, which has a huge amount of removal, what do you really do? Great, we're playing Agonizing Remorse. To me, that seems like a really bad inclusion, because that's a card that, fair enough, 1-for-1's your opponent, but it doesn't stick. Like, that's just getting rid of devotion, and the whole point of the deck is you need devotion. Now, as you can see here, we have Nightmare Shepherd and Grey Merchant, but the problem being is that unless you have 9 mana, you need to wait 2 turns to get both of them out. Bang, look, there you go, disruption, cool, combo's gone.
Yep, she's dead.
And as you can see, that's like the biggest issue here. Like, the last game we won because he just wasn't fucking doing anything. As soon as your opponent does anything, they can immediately come back. And especially something like this, like once
how do you get past that? That's a scoop.
Now, admittedly, this is obviously an especially bad matchup, don't get me wrong, but...
Oh, we didn't skip there.
Yeah, apparently. But like I said, it's an incredibly bad matchup. But
100 fam.
Is that an argument for the deck being bad? Oh, I've got a bad matchup against it. Sure, but the deck actually has a bad matchup against removal, which most decks have. Like,
yeah.
And then again, so if he had an Agonizing Remorse, which I'm pretty sure he actually got rid of the Grey Merchant out of her hand using a Bell Hunt. There's another thing. Any kind of hand disruption. Oh, I'll just take your win condition out. Which, fair enough, does apply to everything, but a lot of other decks have more than just a one-hit wonder way of, like, winning the game. Like, great, Timuret. What does Timuret do? Nothing. There's literally nothing. It just sits there. And then there we go. There's the concede. So in this clip, we are against Mono Black, and he actually completely destroys us, which I think is just kind of funny. I'm not really sure specifically what this highlights between the decks, and, like, all the card choices are basically like, one card choice here isn't going to make such a huge difference to how this deck functions as a concept. But this guy, like, extremely goes off eventually, and it makes me think, like, well, really, why is his one going off compared to ours? But I think it just seems that it's variance in this case. So it's like, I mean, obviously one of us had to win. Like, it's not like we can both lose.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, is that we can just both lose?
Kings about it.
Yeah, that's true. Now, this hand looked like it was pretty good because we have 2 Grey Merchant, but
he
clearly
just kept killing our fucking board so we couldn't, get
exactly
devotion going.
Can't capitalise on it.
Womp womp, fucking hit him for 4. Jesus, that's
I know.
sad.
So then he hits out with Ayara, which I guess lets him hold off for a bit longer. But all we have as a follow-up play from here is Grey Merchant and nothing else. Like,
well, it didn't help that we top decked like 4 lands in a row or some shit, but
that is true. That is very true. And then, so at this point, so obviously we're playing it because what the fuck else do we play?
Yeah.
The interesting thing is, though, is the Timuret does let you banish cats from your grave. So in that case, it's actually pretty good.
There's a lot of application for it. Cats, fucking escape shit. Any kind of combo to Rising Graveyard, Phoenix.
So this guy can also, like, start drawing cards as well, but I think at this point he just, like, top decks Grey Merchant. Top decks Nightmare, top decks Grey Merchant, just wins from there.
Sometimes it just be like that.
Sometimes it do just be like that, which is kind of the point that we actually want to make. A lot of the wins...
Sometimes it just be like that.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing with this deck. Sometimes it just be like that, and it just feels super undeserved, a lot of your wins. Because this is actually kind of a bit like the Knights clip, where the guy just doesn't have any plays, and then eventually that gives you enough time. But, I mean, look how many turns have actually passed, and neither of us have done anything to even attempt to kill us. Like, this is just...
However, this Timuret is gigantic.
Yeah! He do have a big ass.
You got miles of booty. 9 toughness on a 2-mana creature.
So as you can see here,
that's
this
gotta
is...
count for something.
But that's gotta be game though. Bang. Hits us.
Yep. Certainly is.
So I mean, yeah, cool. The deck can do like tons of shit if you just don't have any kind of removal whatsoever. Seems good, right?
Yeah.
So in this clip, I'm pretty sure we are up against an interesting Temur Phoenix build, which is actually what gave us the inspiration to do our own one. And the deck's pretty good, but again, you know, the deck just can't do anything if your opponent's doing any kind of proactive plays.
Yeah. Thanks, Race's Genius.
Yeah, for the inspiration.
That's not right. For the inspiration.
But I mean, now that he's got a Bone Crusher and a Lucky Clover out, like, the amount of removal that the guy has is, like, insane.
Geez, Rick.
Yeah, legitimately. Like, what this guy does off 3 mana is crazy. And, like, here's a good example of a deck that actually does something with the cards that it plays, rather than just putting things on board and just hoping that you can stay alive long enough. Like, I just don't like that. It's not proactive enough.
Angry, durdling noises.
Legitimately, right? The deck is like the durdliest deck. Quite possible. I mean, his hand's fucking insane. Like, his hand is unbelievably good. So at this point, you know, he can just dump the... So he dumps Phoenix and then he ends up dumping the Ox somehow. Oh, he dumped the Ox. Oh, he dumped both. Oh, because Grey Merchant has twice. So he dumps both, and like the amount of value that he's just getting at this point is just crazy.
Just screwed us over. Nothing we can do about it.
I mean, this is just a testament to how like sick the Phoenix deck is.
It's very cool.
But even at that, it is like the Phoenix deck is like by no means like a meta good deck. And if that's still absolutely destroying us just because he has one artifact out, like, is it really...
He got one of his Lucky Clovers, what was the chances?
Yeah.
Fairly high. Actually.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, realistically,
as
you should be...
Go.
If you want a deck to be good... Now, don't... Again, we can't stress this enough. If you have fun playing Merchant or you've had, like, you know, good results with it, then by all means...
Good shit, bro.
Like,
tell me how you did it. I want to do that too.
Tell us how you're doing it.
Please, for the love of God.
But I think we're making a pretty strong argument here that, like...
It's not so great.
It's not. It really isn't.
I'm frightened that it's not so great, but I think that there's a build out there that someone's sussed out and is kicking ass with now. And I'm going to see it and I'm going to be like, hey buddy, I'm stealing that.
Yeah. And at this point, there's just nothing we can do. Now, I feel that even without the Lucky Clover, he could have done a lot. Definitely slower for sure, but again, he has removal. I think that he would have done pretty well. Now, the thing about the deck is it has so much draw that you're going to see your Lucky Clover. You know, like part of your engine is being able to see your good cards, of which this deck doesn't have.
Yeah.
Alright, so here we are against the combo matchup. Now, here's the thing. We actually win this one, which is kind of odd because it's against Doom Foretold, which we should have absolutely lost this. However, this guy is actually just I don't understand why he didn't play Doom Foretold when he could, because if he did, I've got a fairly strong inkling that we would have absolutely lost it. He had the Doom Foretold in his hand like from the beginning, I'm sure. And if he just played that, then yeah, so he has a Doom.
Yeah. I think he wants us to commit to the board a little bit more before he dooms, I think is what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, most likely, I suppose, but...
Or more, he doesn't want to doom while Midnight Reaper's on the board so we can draw loads of cards and shit.
I mean,
now it's not. So.
Yeah, so now it's just, like, not an issue, but...
Yeah.
It just seems odd to me. I guess, like...
Well, he knows that we can just recycle our skeleton warriors.
He has, like, a slow land as well, I suppose, but this is the turn where he could Doom Foretold.
Yeah, but we just sack skeletons and bring back skeletons after hitting them in the face.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, that is
Doom
true.
doesn't do shit.
Elspeth doesn't even work either. Yeah, so I mean, I guess, like, they're just extremely unlucky for him. Realistically, he should have won that. But,
Skeletons counter Doom. Is what it is.
Oh, and then we just drew like the second Grey Merchant. So, I mean, that does feel extremely undeserved to me personally, actually. But
look, man, play powerful cards, win games.
Well, there it is. I guess the deck isn't extremely beyond awful, but
it's not great.
Well, anyway, so here we are. We are against Mono Red, and I'm pretty sure we do beat this Mono Red player, I think.
We do. I can say that fairly confidently because the deck at least performs against aggro. Like, that thing's a fucking 2 for 2. That's just great against aggro.
Yeah, like...
Hey, I can block your shit and survive.
Totally,
Wonderful.
totally. He's also like kind of burnt himself out of resources a little bit, and we somehow actually have an amount currently going on. Being able to gain back life from Ayara is certainly great. That slows him down, and if you get to slow down Mono Red, then I guess you just
win.
So now we've got a blocker for his flyer. Seems all good just now. So at the very least, like, cool, you know, we're not going to shit in the deck entirely. If you're up against aggro, this deck is actually going to do quite well. If you have a lot of aggro players at your locals, perhaps this isn't a terrible inclusion.
Frankly, it feels like an aggro deck with a bit of a combo built into it, so that just makes sense. Black aggro tends to do well against red aggro just because it tends to have more health on its stuff.
I feel like this guy's made like a lot of really poor trades here, but...
But he's got to push the damage for he is red, man. Or maybe he's lining up an Embercleave. I can't remember, frankly.
Yeah, I mean, if he puts an
This
Embercleave...
looks like he's setting up an Embercleave. It looks a lot like that.
Oh my god. I feel like putting Embercleave on the Phoenix was the better idea, personally, but...
I don't think you're on enough heroin that your mind resembles that of a mono red player.
So at this point, you know, we can just like swing it back up, like...
Kerchoo.
That's
a game!
Again, Star's massively aligned with that. However, again, against Mono Red...
It's not as can aligned, because it's hard for him to remove your shit, because it's too big.
Totally, totally. Especially with like shit like Timoret, where it's got a gigantic ass. You know, we can't actually get rid of that off board. You know, a shock can't kill an Ayara, so that's alright.
Bothersome for them.
Especially if you're playing the Cat Oven version, that's probably going to be even better.
Quite.
So now we are up against a Simic Ramp, and this deck ain't doing shit all against Simic Ramp, because they get to their fucking win con way faster than you do, and then they just blow you out. So it doesn't matter how much health that you're gaining, it's irrelevant, because they just do about 300 fucking damage to you, and there's not a whole lot you can do at that point.
Yep. Hey, look, it's your buddy, Resin Reef.
And then, you know, they can get back so much advantage from the Resin Reefs and stuff, it's like...
ludicrous. Did you hear that he came back for the dead?
Yeah. Now, in our hand, it actually looks pretty decent just now. And there's also a funny thing to mention about this deck is, like, you're kinda in this strange position where when you're playing mono-black, when you're playing mono-colored decks, that is, generally you want to be, like, you know, more about, like, 21 mana, but if you have too much, you don't ever want to flood with this deck at all, because you need as much active stuff as possible. So there really is a horrible land balance for like how this deck functions and what it actually wants and how you need to build it. It kind of sucks because you don't want to have a lot of mana, but you need to have 5 mana for Grey Merchant, which is like, seems to be kind of a lot for a monocolored deck generally. So
yep.
There's been a lot of times when that has been an issue, but I mean, at this point, like, the game is over for us, we just don't know it. Although, I mean, we can see a finale of Devastation in its hand, so it's like... time's a ticking! And then when Hydroid can just get you back health,
back
like...
up to 20.
Yeah.
All good.
Thanks, bro! So we're just hoping that we can, like, you know, chip him down over...
Yeah, because we're like, bang, hit you for half your health. Right, next turn I've got you, bastard. And then he's like, finale devastation. And we're like, ah!
We ain't doing anything at this point.
I was recoiling in horror, I believe.
Absolutely. I mean, Simic Ramp is like an insane deck, but clearly far too insane for Grey Merchant. I mean, we're never...
Minus 96!
Were we getting that much health back? Because I don't think we were.
Nope. No band-aid in the world's big enough for that.
Anyway, that brings us to the end of the video. Thanks a lot for watching, and hopefully this kind of served its purpose. We just wanted to highlight where decks are going wrong, and hopefully we can make a theme of this, or at the very least on the flip side, we're going to play something fucking hilarious, and it just means that you don't ever need to play that deck. Because the next deck we've got is Revenge of the Ravens Turbo, and yeah, don't make that deck. Literally, do not make that deck ever. Just,
no.
it is not worth it.
No, it's funny, but it's not worth it.
Anyway, we'll see you in the next video, and remember to like, comment, subscribe, and all that shit. So, catch you later.